This is Beyond the Door, exploring the light of Freemasonry. Hello and welcome again to Beyond the Door, exploring the light of Freemasonry. I am Chris Crume and once again joined by my co-host, Matt Salyer.
What's going on, all?
And we are just so pleased to be back here with you all again. I can't believe that we're on, our fifth episode now? Five and a half if you count that half episode we dropped.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I mean, halfway through this season almost, and really going strong. And I think that's just a testament to everyone out there that is listening to us and supporting us. And we're really, really thankful for that. I know a lot of people enjoyed the first part of our interview with Right Worshipful Brother McCandlish last month. You're not going to be disappointed because we have the second part of that interview on the back half of this episode, as well as talking a little bit about the EA degree. I know, in previous episode, we talked about all the degrees, but we really wanted to start taking a deep dive into what each of those meant. So really today we're going to talk a lot about the Entered Apprentice.
Yeah, there's more to it than the high-level overview that we did previously and, the working tools. So let's see where it takes us.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it takes us. I think it's going to pair nicely with what Right Worshipful Brother McCandlish was talking about as well.
Yeah, I agree. All right, all. Before we dive into the actual content here, want to put out the calendar for February 2026. So Tuesday, February 3rd, 7:30 p.m., Newark 97 is going to have its stated meeting. Saturday, February 14th and February 28th from 9 a.m. to noon, the Licking County Historical Society passport tours will again take place at the Newark Masonic Temple. If you've not taken advantage of that, come down and take a look at the lodge and the artwork.
I encourage
you.
I know one of our brothers just finished that whole tour up and got one of the challenge coins, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, he and his wife finished that. It was an interesting coin, too.
Yeah, it's a really neat coin, and I believe there's only 250 of them, if I'm not mistaken.
Nope, that's correct. All right. Saturday, the 21st at 9 a.m., Newark number 97 is going to have its annual inspection in the Fellowcraft degree. That'll actually start, the degree work will start at 9 a.m., Everybody's welcome down here starting at 8 o'clock. We are serving breakfast.
That's going to be fantastic, too.
Good country boy breakfast.
Yeah, bacon, eggs, biscuits, gravy.
Get everybody full and sleepy so they don't see us screw up.
I like that.
Monday, February 23rd at 7 p.m., West Lafayette number 602 will have their annual inspection in the Entered Apprentice degree. And then Saturday, February 28th at 7 p.m., Aerospace number 800 will have their annual inspection in the Fellowcraft degree. And that's the calendar for February, all.
A lot of inspections still happening in February. I mean, not as many as January, but again, I encourage you to get out and travel, folks. It is probably one of my favorite things to do, traveling with brothers, just because of the camaraderie you get to build in the car.
That, and I still stand by it. Hearing the various lectures and charges from different people, it just hits different.
Even seeing it in a different environment hits different. I mean, I was just over at Pataskal and watched their Master Mason inspection today, and just seeing it in their lodge as opposed to seeing it in our building, totally different.
Yeah. I don't want to say irregularities, that's the wrong word, but irregular from ours, right? It's obviously very different, but even
each lodge has an idiosyncrasy or a tradition that they.
I was even thinking about, for instance, we've talked about the working tools before, but how it's not as if all of the working tools are manufactured in the same way, right? So the altar, the lights.
Everybody's altar's a little different. Everybody's lights are a little bit different.
Yes, how they display the working tools, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Or even how they, have like some of the other presentations for parts of the degrees, right? The ship, always a little different.
Movements around the lodge, even. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about, lodge traditions. I know that our lodge has, the tradition of how we light the burning tapers, right?
Right.
Which is a little different than some other lodges.
Yeah.
Just given the way that we do it. And it's not wrong, but it's just interesting to see those.
But if you don't go, you don't get to see it. And if you don't see it, you don't think to ask. And if you don't ask, you don't learn.
Bingo. All right, so switching gears to kind of talk about what we wanted to discuss today, the Entered Apprentice degree. I think it's a really good place to come back to. We did an overview of the degrees a few episodes ago. We did an overview of the working tools, but really taking some time, especially now that we're into inspection season, and really delving into some of the meaning behind these degrees, where it comes from. What does the term Entered Apprentice even mean? And I think that's a really good place to start. So I'll ask you that. Entered Apprentice, what does that mean? Where does it come from?
I don't know that I am the most scholarly on this, but I will give you a very educated guess and opinion, right? So we've discussed how Masonry generally came from operative to speculative, right? Drawing a parallel then to the skilled trades, not only then, but now, an apprenticeship program is basically on-the-job learning. You show up, you're green, you know nothing, but you're interested in a trade. And once upon a time, this was like a path to commerce, basically.
Mm-hmm.
You were an unskilled person who's maybe coming off of a farm, and you're looking to strike out on your own, but you obviously need a way to make money. One way to do that is through skilled trade and meeting necessary markers in there to progress to the point where you can essentially start your own business, right? And the first is an apprentice. You are working for peanuts for a master, which is actually still, the master term is still alive today in skilled trades, but you're working for a master and you're doing on-the-job learning, right? It's your introduction to a trade, which is how I see the Entered Apprentice degree for Freemasonry, right? It's the first time entering the lodge with the intent to join the brotherhood. And it is your first educational experience into what it means to be a master mason.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that educational piece where you're learning to walk. You learn to crawl, walk, run. In that Entered Apprentice degree, you start to learn the symbols, the mythology, the terms, and what all that means. Just like, again, apprentice, journeyman, master in any trade out there, whether it's plumbing, electrician, carpentry, things like that. And it's cool to see that parallel still in play even today in trade unions and trade, and the trades that we see.
Well, I think Freemasonry made the jump from operative to speculative very well. I think that they were able to take the terminology and the lexicon and make it work in symbolic fashion.
Well, but that's easy, I think, because the lexicon translates very well to,
of course,
symbolism for what we should be doing inside ourselves.
I agree with that entirely. I'm just saying they did make that jump, right?
Yeah.
Somebody had to sit down and think about that for a while, in my mind.
Did they? I mean, I guess I look at that. Did they really have to, or was it more of a natural progression, do you think? Just, as we talked about earlier in, that kind of that history episode, was it more of just a natural progression where, you had these, for lack of a better term, these skilled unions building these great works all over Europe and, that continent. And then the lords of the castle coming in and saying, hey, that's kind of cool. I'd like to be a part of this. And integrating into that. So was it, do you think it was a hard and fast, we have to think about this? Or do you think it was more of a gradual?
Probably gradual, but nevertheless, it's still, my point is that it required thinkers. If you're a very blunt instrument, we'll say, and you just like hitting things with hammers, you're probably not going to make these intellectual leaps, right, into code of conduct and things of that nature.
Very true. Very true.
Now, I see it having progressed as a teaching tool.
Well, yeah, and again, I go back to my one of my favorite sayings, and you know where I'm going with this is Freemasonry and Masonry is really one of the oldest employee handbooks out there. It was really a code of conduct that the master craftsman laid out for the journeyman and the apprentices to say, hey, when the king of the castle's coming around, don't be an idiot.
Well, that to me is more like workplace conduct, though. I'm thinking more in line with the broader societal moral teachings, which I think are a little bit deeper than that, right? Because one could argue that is self-serving in a way.
Yeah,
because that keeps you in gainful employment.
Well, but as you think about how it's, we talk about that switch from operative to speculative, not delving too deep into it, like we already did that, but that's where that transition started. Is it's, this code of conduct laid down, and you see the lords of the castle starting to say, hey, that's a pretty cool handbook there. I can see some parallels. I can see something in that, and I want to be a part of it. As they got more involved, they're, again, lord of the castle, he's not getting his hands dirty, right?
Yes, but what I was referring to relative to a teaching tool, right?
Exactly.
So you have an entered apprentice, and you're fielding questions, right? You're the master, and you've got an entered apprentice, and somebody says, why do we start so early? Why are we doing this when the sun comes up? And lo and behold, a 24-inch gauge is laying around.
And you start to, now I see where you're going with that. You say, well, there's 24 hours in a day.
Yes.
And, we have to start early because there's 8 hours for doing this and 8 hours for doing this.
And if you're going to refine this block in a way that it's going to fit with those other refined blocks out there, you should probably do it while there's daylight.
Yeah. 100%, unless daylight savings time plays into it, then you're...
I don't suspect that was a problem at that time.
I hope not. But, I digress a little on that. You're right. And again, knowing that we just did an Entered Apprentice degree last night, I think it's very pertinent on the mind, is those working tools and how they are actual implements that were used, but then how they did equate those to maybe a moral lesson.
That's what I mean. I think that because if you think about this at the time, apprentices basically lived with the master. These are not people that are showing up on a job site per se. These are 24-hour.
Yeah, it's not like what we think of today of like a normal job site where you come in, you clock in at 8 o'clock, you go home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're done.
Right. These are not 19-year-olds that have finished a high school education and they're out in the job force. These are oftentimes early teenagers who are starting their...
They could have been, I don't want to say, they could have been, their father said, hey, you're going to go and apprentice with this craftsman.
Well, that's exactly right. And it started earlier then, is the point.
Think Game of Thrones, right? If you think Game of Thrones, Jon Snow being sent to the wall, sometimes it could have happened that way.
I've not seen Game of Thrones.
Well,
I don't want to say it too loud because people might come at me.
But if you think about it, a lot of times those teenagers were picked up to go and do these trades because it was just what was expected.
Well, families were big, money was tight.
Yeah.
There were issues with weather and crop yields and all these other things, and oftentimes kids were loaned to larger farms or other trades for that very purpose because unfortunately not all families could manage that many mouths.
They couldn't all be the lord of the castle.
Right.
Well, and again, I think that's, another one of the important lessons of the Entered Apprentice. We always equate that to youth, right?
Yes.
And, we equate that to youth in, I think, a few different fashions, right? You've got the youth thinking about it, what we just talked about historically, but then youthful in the spirit, right?
Yes, youthful in spirit and also plasticity of the mind.
Ooh, I like that.
That's kind of where my head goes.
Talk to me about that.
So you are staying out of the biology of it, right? When you start talking about plasticity and you start talking about interest, a lot of people are most interested when they start something new, right? It's novel. It captures our attention. And it's when your attention is captured that you are going to be drinking in the most, right? Soaking it up like a sponge. So it's that plasticity of the mind. I think that's one of the reasons that the Entered Apprentice lecture is one of the longer ones.
I would agree with that.
There's a lot in there.
There's a lot in there. Again, how is it? Worshipful Brother Craig always describes it. It's like drinking from a fire hydrant or a fire hose, right?
Yep.
You're getting so much thrown at you, and you're just saying, "I'm going to absorb as much as I possibly can."
Yeah, and it varies too. If you think about the content of that lecture, it wanders around a little bit, and it doesn't in a very poetic way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that negatively, but there is a lot in there, whereas it's drawn to more of a finer point when you start to get into the Master Mason degree.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because it kind of mirrors the journey of youth, right? It does wander a little bit, just as you have a toddler still. He wanders, doesn't he? He goes over here, over there, over here, and he's learning different things. And I think that's what that lecture really does help symbolize.
Absolutely. That's actually my exact point. Like, your interest is piqued. You are at your most plastic point with it, because you're just so focused on this very novel, very new thing. You've not been introduced to it before. So it's what all can I soak in?
Yeah.
I think it was designed that way.
I believe it was as well. And, I think in our next couple episodes, we're going to delve into the other degrees as well, just like we're doing here. But there are parallels then through the rest of those lectures as well. And I don't want to miss this point, but it'll be one that I make in the Fellowcraft again. That Fellowcraft is the great bridge, right? Because again, I think the Fellowcraft starts off almost a little meandering, but then it finer points itself as you take that journey in it, right?
Oh, of course. I think that's the point. And then
to the point where you get to the Master Mason lecture is a fine point, right? It is boom.
Yes.
So it's interesting to see that parallel in the journey of life, just in those lectures itself, let alone the degrees. But then also, again, equating them back to trades, right? That apprentice, they are learning, they are absorbing every piece of knowledge, whether it's an electrician or a plumber or what have you. They are absorbing every piece of information that is coming at them while they are in that apprenticeship program.
Well, and there's also the expectation that there will be some failures in there, some screw ups.
Absolutely.
Because frankly, we learn from those the most.
Oh, having failed once in my life. I
just
kid.
The once?
I kid. I can say I've learned from failure.
Well, I don't have studies in front of me, right? So I'm not going to quote one, but I've certainly read some literature on this, and it's very, very clear that you learn far more from your failures than you do from your successes.
Oh, 100%. 100%. We really learn what to and what not to do from them.
Right. And in my mind, it's showing back up, though. Perhaps you want to address the lodge and you forget what you need to do in order to do so. And just like you're told to do, you ask more informed brethren. That's the expectation, right?
Absolutely. It's 100%.
The expectation is that because you are on a learning path, that you can get away with a little bit more. Maybe not intentionally, but the masters should expect that you are not going to come into this perfect and knowing precisely what to do at every given moment, which is why you're told and encouraged to ask of more informed brethren. That way you eventually, through time and repetition, start getting it right. And then as you're climbing that figurative ladder, right, you're then lowering your hand for the entered apprentices coming up behind you.
Absolutely. I'm almost speechless at that, because it's exactly what being an entered apprentice is all about. I know we've talked about this a little bit too, but there's that anticipation, I think. There's that, you're not 100% sure what you're getting yourself into when you do that. The same thing that, again, when you're growing up, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. You don't know what you don't know.
I don't know that it's a perfect parallel here, but to me, that first rap on the door, it's like a leap of faith.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That what's on the other side is going to be what you expect it to be, or perhaps surprise you in a way that's better still.
Well, I know we've kind of talked about this before. What was going through your head when you made that first knock on the door as an entered apprentice?
Being perfectly honest, I did not have a singular thought. That isn't to suggest that I had no thoughts. Actually, I had a kind of a racing mind.
Yeah.
Because I was bouncing back and forth between possibilities and nerves.
Yeah.
So I can't pinpoint any one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of zero in more on the feeling of anxiety than anything, more than anything rather. But yeah, I didn't have a singular thought that I can point to and kind of plant a flag in.
Yeah. You? I had a lot of the same anxieties. I had a lot of anxiety. And I think the interesting thing, knowing your journey, you knew that your dad was waiting on the other side of that door somewhere in that building, right?
I don't know if that made me more or less nervous, but okay. Yeah, you're right.
But you knew he was over
Correct.
there, right? For me, I'm coming in, again, as an introvert, I'm coming into this brand new place. I've met you all once before, and only a handful, during the investigation. And that's something I think we can talk about here in just a minute. But just nervous saying, what the hell am I doing? Going, what is this? Is this right? What am I doing? Is this going to be awesome? Is it not going to be awesome? Am I going to like this? Am I going to come back? I think that's what's really interesting about that entered apprentice degree is you do find the guys that are like, oh my gosh, nah, this is not what I thought it was going to be, and they never come back, right?
I wonder if that's true. Like, now, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of nonsense out there for them to get bad impressions of what to expect. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if there are other factors that we're not considering there.
Well, I think there's other factors, yes, but I think, again, somebody who's uninitiated and you go through that ritual for the first time, right? It can be, you can see how somebody might go, whoa, that was interesting.
Interesting is a very good word, but it's a loaded word. I think anybody, I don't know that it's that we're not, how do I say this? I think that we meet expectations in a very good way.
Yes.
But I wonder if some people aren't ready for it.
That's my point exactly. They're not ready for the expectations that we're setting, right? Or just the degree in and of itself.
Well, it's the fire hose.
Yeah.
It's so much. It's so much, so fast. And then, being candid about it, you're given some homework. And it's not necessarily the easiest homework.
It is not easy homework whatsoever. When Mark came out to me with that homework and that little book, I'm sitting there looking at that for the first time. I'm going, I have no idea how I'm going to get through this.
Well, and the expectation that you stand up
and do that in front of the lodge.
That's right.
Yeah. And as an introvert, again, terrified me. I didn't know you guys that well.
I had to turn my heart rate monitor off for the Master Mason return. So I very much understand what you mean.
Yeah. Like I said, for me, it was one of those that, the cool thing, well, I didn't know anybody, so the terror was real. And the more I got through the degrees and got more comfortable, the terror started to go away to the point where I'm at now, being able to do this right here. But I think sometimes having those familial ties can help as well, right?
there's a comforting face out there,
Mm-hmm.
but I think there's also a sense of expectation from him,
Mm.
right? Like,
Mm.
at least that's something that I carried with me was that's a person that I care about and don't want to let down.
Yeah.
And that's actually what I meant by, whether or not it was comforting or not,
Yeah.
knowing he was on the other side
Yeah.
of the door. Because one could argue that, if you didn't like it and you haven't really established any relationships here, you
Yeah.
can just ghost.
Yeah. But yeah, for you, it would have been very hard to do that.
That's exactly right. And there was that, he's been here, he's done these things. Yeah. Does he have expectations? Like, those are certainly thoughts that were going through my mind. But the reception after the fact,
yeah,
people that were willing to help, the people that were willing to make sure that while you have to do the homework kind of on your own, meaning it's your brain and you can't borrow somebody else's,
yeah,
they're with you along the way. They're giving you,
they're helping you.
That's right.
There's a helping hand there. And, it's interesting that you say, the expectations that, your dad might have had, you couldn't just ghost. Knowing my background, I wonder if my dad felt the same way with me attending his degrees and, that there were expectations there.
I would ask that question because I would be willing to bet that that's true.
Well, that sounds like a really good idea for a podcast maybe around Father's Day where we can bring our dads in here.
I like the idea. I worry what stories might be told. Well,
you're right. But as long as they don't bring pictures, we'll be all right, I think.
I was an idiot teenager. That's
I think there's a lot of similarities here on both sides of the table.
Yeah. Those are the things that worry me. It's not stories from my Masonic journey. It's from when I was a moron.
I mean, I'm still a moron, but
fair.
Didn't have to agree so readily there.
It was more of a Me Too situation than it was.
But looking at again where Entered Apprentice kind of comes from, talking about going to the door, I want to back up just a little bit and talk about really the process of it. It's obviously it's the petition first, right? And I think that's obviously that's the first step. And for anyone that's interested, there is a way to go ahead and do that.
I would argue it's more of a quibble.
You're right. I know where you're going to go.
Where am I going?
Go ahead. I know where you're going to go. You have to have the desire first.
Well, and you've got to ask. The petition to me is step 2, because you're right. That is the administrative side of things.
Yes.
But you've got to have the courage to knock on that door and ask the question.
Absolutely. Whoever it is that you're talking to, you've got to have that desire to say, tell me more.
Yes. But administratively, you're 100% correct.
Well, and I'll tell you what's interesting about the petition. I think sometimes that might be what keeps people coming back, because there is a fee involved with that, right? Just for the degrees, for everything that you're doing. When you got a little skin in the game, you're coming back, right? Usually.
One would hope. Yes.
Usually.
Statistically, I would agree.
Statistically, yes. But then that, that's I don't want to say that's the easiest part of the whole process. To me, that, filling out a piece of paper, laying a little cash down, that's not too hard.
Yeah. Agree.
After you've had that initial interest, the investigation, that's where I want to go. Considering we just had one last night, I think they're valuable. I'd love to go back to doing them the way we used to.
We should go back to doing them the way we used to.
So for those that aren't listening, a lot of times when we do, at least for our lodge, when we do,
for those that are listening.
Exactly. But at least for our lodge, the way that we will conduct that is we bring the prospect down and do it here in the building. But it used to be where you would actually go out and meet that Mason, maybe meet that person, meet their family, and really get to know who they were before you brought them in.
I think that's the right way to do it. And I think that not only puts the organization in a better light, but I also feel like when it comes time to really knock on that door, when it's the night of your Entered Apprentice, I think there's some additional comfort in actually having a better understanding of who it is that's conducting you through this.
It's a deeper connection.
That's exactly right.
It's a deeper connection. Well, if you look at it as a parallel, we're knocking on their door first before they end up knocking on our door.
I like that.
Because it adds that little bit of familiarity.
I agree. And the thing, again, minor quibble. Being a man with young children, I don't know how I would feel about a group of guys showing up at the door and introducing them to just everybody.
But it doesn't have to necessarily be at a home, does it?
That's actually exactly where I'm going. Don't get me wrong. The in-home stuff has a value too, because you have an opportunity to also speak with significant others who can ask questions about, what kind of time commitments are these things, so that it's a family decision and it's not putting any strain on a relationship.
Well, and it allows that significant other to get to know some of the people that,
of course,
the man in their life is going to go hang out with.
Me personally, again, this is a Matt thing. I probably would have preferred neutral ground.
Yeah.
Go break bread with somebody at a restaurant
Absolutely.
and have these conversations, as opposed to the intimacy of my home.
And I think there's a fine line between all of that too. I think you can leave it up to that prospect, right? Where their comfort level is.
Of course. And if I were a single man with no young children, I would have far less concerns about inviting people in.
Yeah.
And for additional context for the listeners who are not Masons, you have to have 2 signers on your petition. They're generally men that you know and have recommended you for membership. But they cannot be on your investigation committee, and for all the right reasons, because they have a bias.
Yeah, they already know who you are. They're going to say, "Oh yeah, I vouch for this guy."
So when I'm talking about inviting people into my home, they would be relative strangers, and that's done by design.
Yeah, it's done by design to, like you said, give that unbiased opinion of who you are, what you're about, and why you're interested.
Exactly.
So, you get through that, then we get to, the actual balloting part of it, which is actually, I really like that part of the whole process. I think balloting might be one of my favorite acts in Masonry, because there is a solemnity to it, right? There is, you're thinking, okay. And I equate this when I talk with my staff when they're hiring somebody new in. You're going to change the culture of your lodge for the better or for the worse when you bring somebody new in. So you really have to put some thought in saying, is this person going to make our culture stronger?
Well, it's also, so I agree with you on that point, and I would also go further and say that there's a second leap of faith by the brethren there.
Yes.
Because it's just the investigation committee who has often met with this brother. So they are somewhat reliant. Well,
they are 100% reliant
unless they're top line signers, they're 100% reliant on the findings of that investigation committee.
Yeah. I mean, which again, I think gets to kind of some of the heart of what we do. It's that trust.
Of course.
It's that trust. We are trusting that investigation committee has done their job and thoroughly investigated and said, yeah, this guy...
This is a good fit.
Yeah, he's a good fit. He meets the criteria for what we're looking for. But that's why I love that aspect of what we do, right? That balloting. We're sitting here listening, trusting these guys that have done the investigation and saying, all right, this is a great guy. And now you're having to sit there and go, okay, do I change the culture? Do I change the culture of this lodge by bringing somebody in? Is it going to be for the better? Is it going to be for the worse?
Well, when you put it in that binary way, I think I know how I would vote if it were for the worse.
Well, yes, absolutely. But that's what the beauty of that all...
Of course.
That all is. I mean, I think that's where we can come, the term blackballed, right?
Yes, indeed.
That's where it comes from. It comes from Freemasonry. When you're voting, a blackball means that you're not going to be, or that you're saying no.
I can't speak for other Grand Lodges, but I know in Ohio, it has to be unanimous.
Yeah, it has to be. But again, I always kind of get chills whenever we vote. And, again, being in the East, you're opening that ballot box for the first time and you don't know what you're going to see. You can assume, but you don't know.
Well, to a certain, well, what I will say is, you can know an outcome if your intent is to vote with a black ball.
Well, yes.
But if your intent is not to do that, you're as surprised by that outcome as every other person.
Well, and I think, again, I come to it from saying, I know how I'm going to vote, but I don't know how everybody else is going to vote. Even if, again, investigation committee has said, yeah, we report favorably. Top line signers, secondary, are saying, yeah, this is a great person. It's up to each individual person to still make their choice.
Yeah.
And every time you open that ballot box and look in there, again, there's still just a little apprehension. I'm like, am I going to see that?
Right. This is somebody who's got an interest. Are they going to be disappointed in this result?
Yeah, 100%. So it's one of those that I still get butterflies almost in my stomach every time I go to that ballot box. You know what I'm saying? Did you ever get that?
I do.
It's just because, again, you open it and you see all white balls and you're like, oh, it's a relief, right?
In part, I think I feel like I would feel the exact same way if I knew in my heart that it should have gone the other way too.
Absolutely.
The decision is easy. The conversation is hard.
Yeah.
But the result is the right one.
Yeah. But there's that anxiety that builds up still to this day. And then it's relief when you open that up,
Yep.
knowing that the decision is the right decision. And I think that's what's really cool is, again, the trust, right? It goes back to that trust, trusting that the brethren are going to make the right choices and build the culture the right way.
Well, and I think part of that is, of course, the brotherhood. And the other, I'll say 10% of that is also the fact that it is a secret ballot.
Mm-hmm.
It's designed in such a way where you can be that person who does the black ball and it's not known.
Yeah.
You're not going to be singled out for your vote.
It alleviates your conscience a little bit to actually vote your conscience.
Correct.
So I love that. And then, again, we get through that. And then, I don't know that I've ever had to deliver the news that I'm sorry you got blackballed, but being able to deliver the news saying, hey, you've been elected for degrees. That's always a fun conversation to have with somebody.
It is.
Because you can always hear it in their voice. They're relieved, right? They're like, oh my gosh.
Well, there's the relief and then there's the when.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the
what's
when.
next?
It's the relief, but then with a little bit of a new bit of anxiety, right? Saying, what comes next? Where do I go from here?
That's exactly right.
And then that, I feel like that kind of builds till you come in for that Entered Apprentice degree, right? And now you're in here, dressed to the nines,
sweating through your shirt,
even though I think in our building right now, it's probably impossible to sweat through your shirt.
It would be rather difficult.
Given the coldness, but you're nervous. And now, you're surrounded by all these guys that you may know 2-3 guys. These were the guys that were on your investigation committee, but there's a bunch of other guys here. And you're like, I have no idea who you are. And I'm probably going to forget your name in about 30 seconds because my mind's going a mile a minute. And that's that anticipation that whole night until you get to the preparation room, right?
Yeah. And there's a couple of different ways people can take that.
Well, I think, but let's dissect that preparation room for a second. I like the preparation room during all the degrees because it gives you that chance to contemplate what you're about to do, the undertaking you're about to undertake.
Look, that is on paper. I agree with you entirely. I love the idea, right? If I were to do it different, if for some reason I was doing a pro tem tomorrow,
yes,
that would be wonderful because I would actually sit down, contemplate it.
Mm-hmm.
When it was like the real deal.
Yeah.
For me, it was more like, can they make this room bigger? I need to pace a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Right.
But I think that's interesting because, again, as you go through the degrees, there is more time to prepare yourself. Because I look at it, yes, it's the preparation room for preparing the candidate to go get the degrees, to get dressed, to get ready for that degree. But it's also, I think, preparation for the mind. It should be preparation for the mind and the soul, right?
It should be and can be if you can calm your nerves.
Well, and I think part of that is also on us to help prepare them better. And I say, look, follow me down this trail for just a second. I think it's on us to help prepare them better by putting them more at ease and saying, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get you into this, but I want you to just, again, I've not been outside on that side to be able to help somebody through it, but it's just contemplate why you want this, right? Think about giving them something to think about at that very first moment, saying, why is this important? Not just saying, here's your clothes, go change, we'll be back to get you in 15 minutes.
Not a single word of disagreement from me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that is what it is designed for.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is what it is best for. I don't think that necessarily is the reality for certain personality types.
True, but I also think I think it's something that we miss a lot of times.
Well, like everything, we could do better.
Yeah.
Right? You're never strive for perfection.
Yes.
Always try to do better. There's obviously opportunities.
Because I think back to my own experience, it's like, here I am in a strange building with a bunch of strangers, and they're like, here's your pretty blue clothes, go put them on. And you just sit there. We'll come and get you. It's like going to the doctor's office and you put on that robe with your, that doesn't cover everything. And you're just told to sit in this room by yourself until the doctor gets here.
We could have looking at that nice metaphor, I think we could have a better bedside manner at times.
Yes. And that's kind of where I go. That's where the preparation room, I think that's where we can do better with that, right?
Yeah.
We can help them prepare. Because again, we're talking about the Entered Apprentice. We're supposed to be helping them along the way, right? How do we help them prepare? Is it just saying, here's your weird clothes, here's a hardwood chair to sit in, we'll come and get you in 15 minutes? Or is it saying, start reflecting, start thinking about why this is important and giving them some instruction even at that point?
Oh, again, not a single word of disagreement. I think that is the way that it should be done.
Yeah.
And I believe that was the way it was designed to be done.
Absolutely.
And I think that you could have the absolute best person doing that, and it will not work with all personality types.
100%. You're still going to have the nerves.
Yes.
But if you don't have those nerves, that's where I worry a little bit.
I wouldn't worry so much. I would actually ask them some questions like, what are they doing? How are they doing it? Like, what are your secrets? Like, how can I quiet this crazy mind? I think
there's some natural anxiety built into that process.
I think a little bit is healthy.
Mm-hmm. Because I think you have to have a little bit of, if you don't knock on that door for the first time and not have a little bit of anxiety, I would like to talk to you about your nerves of steel.
Yeah. Ice water in the veins.
Yeah. Because again, I don't care who you are. When you're standing there, can't see, can't really hear, two guys that you don't know on either side, and you knock on that door, that's intimidating because you don't know what's on the other side.
That's true.
You have absolutely no idea what's on the other side. And I think that's what I love about it too, is you have no idea what you're stepping into. You have to trust the process and the people in that room whom you've never met maybe, or met for the first time that night.
It's much, much easier if that investigation committee makes clear what the values of the organization are.
Absolutely. Brotherly love, relief, and truth.
Because if all of that is aligned and you have, it's much easier to make that leap of faith.
Absolutely.
When you know that you're aligned with the commitments, the values, etc.
Yeah.
Of the brethren on the other side.
Absolutely. So you've made that knock. Now we go into the actual degree, which I don't think we're going to talk too much about what happens in that degree, right? But the feelings of that degree. What does it evoke for you?
The movement helped quiet my mind. Mm-hmm. If we're talking about my personal experience, the initial movement helped quiet my mind. I was not in need of any prompting for the little bit of feedback that was requested of me.
Yeah.
Whether or not that was divine intervention or You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was able to just kind of pick up on the cues in order to reply. I can't say,
Yeah.
but that gave me confidence, and the nerves quieted
Mm-hmm.
as I progressed through it.
Yeah.
So when that started calming down, I was able to kind of reach a contemplative state when it started to really matter.
When it started to roll. I think for me, again, the nerves played a big part of it because, again, can't see, really don't know what's going on outside of you other than what you can hear and smell.
Yeah.
I mean, those are about the only two senses you have at your disposal, right? When you think about it, you're obviously not tasting anything. You really can't feel anything except for, maybe the floor beneath your feet. You can't see anything, so you can only hear and smell what's going on in that room. So, again, for me, until the point where you're able to see again, there was that almost fear factor, right? But then there was comfort after that. When you see these friendly faces smiling at you, when you can see again, there's a little bit of comfort in there. You're like, oh, they're just people.
Yeah.
They're just people. I think as I look to
receptive people, I would add that.
They're friendly faces.
But they're also
they're faces that are ready to embrace you and go with you on your journey.
Yeah, they're eager for you to embark on this, and they're happy to see you taking that next step.
They want you to be as successful as you want to be.
Yes, possibly more.
Possibly more. I mean, and there are people, I always use the phrase, you can't want it for somebody more than they want it themselves, right? But they want it for you just like, they want it for you as much as you want it for yourself in that same breath, right?
Yeah, I think that's very true, especially of this lodge.
Absolutely. But, one of the things that, I always laugh with this part. I think one of the things that, really strikes me is how much we impart the core tenets, right? Compassion, service, and integrity, or brotherly love, relief, and truth right into the beginning of this, right? I think about the deposit, right, that you're asked to make.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things being in the East is when I actually make that request and somebody says, well, let me go get my wallet. It's over there in the preparation room. I've had that once or twice.
Give me 1 second.
Give me 1 second. I could go get my credit card. It's
I got a better idea. Don't mess up my rhythm.
Yeah.
God gave you one mouth and two ears. Close the one and open the other two.
But that's, again, that for me, I love that part because it does help to start imparting upon the mind those lessons, right?
Yes.
Of who we are at our core.
No, on that point, I agree entirely. Yes.
But again, I think it shows, again, this is the Entered Apprentice degree we're talking about. That story of somebody saying, oh, let me go get my credit. They're learning.
Well, and they're eager.
They're eager, but they're also uninstructed. Right?
Yep.
They're seeing this expanse. They're eager to join. They're eager to do, but they don't know what yet.
Right.
They don't know what they don't know. And I love that part of that. That's like when I think about this degree, that part resonates with me because, again, unless they've been given the cue, right? What's your first inclination when somebody says, "Can you comply with that?" You're like, "Well, let me go get $10 out of my wallet.
I'll figure it out. What do I need to do?"
Exactly.
Right.
And that, again, the core of what this degree is all about, right? I don't know, but I'm willing to learn and do whatever you need me to do.
Yep.
And I think that piece, that whenever I give that part of the degree, I'm sitting there, my heart just is full because, again, it's like, you're eager. You just don't know what yet. You don't know what you're eager for yet. Let me help you.
I'm digesting.
Yeah.
I have no disagreements here.
Yeah.
I think we don't always think alike, and that there are other areas of this degree that kind of hit me harder.
Ooh, tell me.
Ooh, the apron.
Yeah, well, yeah, that always hits me hard.
It's time over time, I don't realize how deep that is.
Yeah.
Because even now, I'll sit with it and or as we heard it just last night.
Yeah.
I just, oh,
I get misty-eyed.
well, that and
There's a lot of meaning.
there's a very, very high calling in that.
Yes.
There's an incredibly high calling in that.
But
And
it gets to the heart of what we mean.
well, it does, but it's also somewhat, and this is perhaps a me thing, but there's always that you're there and you're hopeful and you're watching this happen and it's wonderful for the candidate. But, I've got like a second processor that's kind of doing a little bit of an introspective and saying like, what could I be doing better? Because there is that high calling.
And I think, again, that's a great point too, because again, I think about that and it's another one of my favorite parts, I think about when I was presented with my apron. Worshipful Brother Craig presented me with my apron. And just seeing him get just a touch misty-eyed while he's giving that, it shows how much it means.
Yep.
100%. And Worshipful Brother Wentz last night, I mean, I always love listening to him give that presentation as well. It just, on the other side now, you contemplate more on that.
I would be lying if I said in the moment I understood even 15%.
Oh, same here.
Of the depth of that.
I'll tell you, I didn't understand the depth of it, but I understood that it was important because of how the brother that was giving me that presentation was reacting to just doing it, right?
100%. The sentiment was certainly not lost on me. I understood the import of what was happening. It was digesting, right? It was really sitting back and looking at it after I had an opportunity to see what we're talking about, right? As opposed to just trying to go from memory.
Yeah.
And really thinking about what not is being asked of you, but right, these higher ideals, this higher calling.
Yeah.
And
I know where you're going with it.
Yeah.
I really get that because again, there's a power behind it.
Oh, there's an immense power.
There's an immense power behind it. And when you go through that, I still contemplate it to this day. Again, seeing it last night, it reinforced it. It hammered it home that this is the moment where you go from just being a man to being a Mason. I understand the obligation and all of that, but getting that apron.
Yep.
We call it the badge of a Mason.
And I want to quote from this so bad right now. Well, but that's a peek behind the curtain that I don't think that we should do.
No, I don't
because
either.
It's so important.
But again, it's one of those things that to me, right there in that presentation, boom, that's when you're like, I am a Mason.
Yes.
There's just something, again, we can talk about the obligation all we want. We can talk about the charge. You can talk about the lecture. And that's, when you say it, no, it's right there in that point.
I had not actually considered that, but I actually think that that's right.
Well, again, because that apron, like, you take that throughout your entire life from that moment forward.
No, you are not in any way, shape, or form hearing me say you're wrong.
Yeah.
I've always looked at this as a journey, and I don't know that I've ever had a moment where I felt like I had quote unquote arrived. Like that was it. Right. But I think if I had to pinpoint one that is from this moment on, you are one of the brethren, I would probably pick that as having the most power.
Yeah. Because you go from not having that piece. It's almost like it's the physical manifestation of what you're transforming into, right? You didn't have that apron when you came in. And now, boom, you have that. And it is part of you.
Well, it's
forever.
And it is a very powerful symbol of something that you should aspire to attain.
Yeah. Well, and to the outside world, that apron is a very powerful symbol that you are a Mason, right?
Well, that is part of.
I mean, you think of all the paintings of George Washington wearing his apron, right? That's how they're like, oh, he was a Mason because they see that apron. Right?
That's what I was going to say. It's almost pop culture like. It's recognized worldwide as being part of Freemasonry.
Exactly. And that's where I think, again, for me, that power behind that moment, it's like, boom, now you're a Mason because now you've got that piece, that outward manifestation of what a Mason is seen as, right?
That's a very good point.
But then there's also the internal of all that meaning too. I mean, it's a double-edged sword there because you've got the internal, which, I don't know that we've talked a little bit about what it means to us, but now you've got that outward symbol that says, I am transformed. Yeah. I am a Mason now.
You're right. Again, to me, it was always about the path and not the arrival. And I think I don't know that that's necessarily wrong, but I think if you are going to choose a moment that is of the 3 degrees, that is by far the best.
Yeah.
Head and shoulders above.
Yeah. It's just, it's the start. It's like, if you're at a track meet and you hear the gun go off, right? Bang. That's what it is. It's the gun going off and saying, now you're started.
You said gun. Now my neighbor's app is was that gunshots? Was that gunshots?
But, you go through, I think we've gone through pretty much that whole first part of the degree at this point. And we've talked a little bit about the lecture and what that really symbolizes. And again, talking about I don't want to say the sporadic nature of it, but just the here, there, and everywhere of it. And it is about discovery. It is about new beginnings. It's about drinking from the fire hose and learning.
Yeah. And I would second what you just said. I don't want to give the impression that it's scattershot. It is still by design.
Yes.
But it casts a very wide net in terms of Masonic knowledge.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to say it's like shiny object, like, ooh, look at this over here. Ooh, look at this over here. But it kind of is, because it is. It's introducing you to all these brand new concepts. So you're sitting there going, ooh, look at this concept over here. Oh, now here's a new one. Oh, there's one over here. And I think it gets you excited, right? You start to learn these things and learn these processes, and it gets you excited.
Well, you learn just how wide and how deep the symbolism goes.
Yes. I think that's a perfect example of what this lecture means. It's, it's your elementary school, right? It's your elementary school education into Masonry. And then we can talk about the Fellowcraft and the Master Mason, being like middle school, high school later, but this is your elementary school education. You're learning the basic concepts. You're learning your alphabet, right? You're learning 2 + 2. You're learning everything brand new. When you get to the other two, now you're building upon that, right?
Yeah. I mean, crawl, walk, run.
Crawl, walk, run. And I think that's even a metaphor for Masonry in and of itself, right? Which I think is just, again, it's a beautiful symmetry right there.
Oh, good word.
I try every now and again. I think the thing about this degree as we wrap up here that I love the most is how it sets you up for everything else in Freemasonry. I mean, it really is opening the door. We talk about at the end of the Master Mason, the world is yours now, right? I think the Entered Apprentice degree is really where the door opens, right? Because you have to have the faith to take that first step through the threshold.
You're right, but we would be lying to people if we said that it truly was open, because there are tiled lodges that you still can't attend.
That's very true, but it is that first step into a whole new world.
Oh, you are definitely entering a new domain. No question.
Absolutely. And it is what catapults you into being able to going into those other tiled lodges.
Oh, of course. It is a stepping stone.
It is the catalyst.
It's a very, very important one.
Yeah. And again, I love all the degrees. I think Fellowcraft is still my favorite, and I can't wait till we talk about that one. But the Entered Apprentice, I can't really emphasize enough to any Entered Apprentice that's out there. Enjoy that time. Don't rush. Learn the lessons that this degree has to offer. There's a reason why, if you look at some of those ancient charges, they said you were an apprentice for 7 years, right? There's a reason for that, because it takes the time to learn and appreciate and understand.
I think I'm going to cue in on a very basic but deep word that you just said, and that's learn. Mm-hmm. So we talked a little bit about homework earlier.
Yeah.
And what I would caution people from doing, if you take the steps to become a Freemason and you get this homework, I would caution you away from the idea that the assignment is memorization.
No, it's not memorization. That is the catalyst.
What I'm saying is that no one is asking you to be a parrot. We don't want to hear our words come out of your mouth. There are lessons there. And I think that's what's the most important about that homework. It's not whether or not you can say something in a verbatim way, at a pleasant cadence, right?
Yeah.
It's whether or not you have kind of soaked up the meaning of what it is that's transpiring, and you're aligned with it, and it carries some kind of value for you.
I mean, I can't say it better myself, and I think that's really the best thought to end all this on. So with that, we now kick it over to part 2 of our interview with Right Worshipful Brother McCandlish.
I'm still processing some of the stuff that you were talking about when you were the DEO, frankly.
Yeah.
Just
best job in the world.
Please don't think that I was not paying attention, but my mind started racing about things that we could be doing
here.
Right. Exactly.
Right here.
There's actionable stuff in there that is kind of taking about 50% of my processing power right now.
Being a DEO was the greatest gig. I loved being a DEO. And from day one, when I was giving a talk, I never stood up at my seat. I'm out on the floor and I walk the room. I still do this every time I speak in any lodge. I walk the room because, after about 10 minutes of talking, the guy's posterior starts getting numb and he's starting to zone out. But if you're walking around the room, he's worried you're going to stop next to him and ask him a question. So he's going to pay attention. It's an old teaching tactic. You keep moving and keep everybody interested. But you also got to know that you can get long in the tooth, and that's not a good thing either. Have substance to your talks. But I loved being the DEO. I kept everybody. I didn't. I think maybe once a year did I do a talk that was a Grand Lodge talk. I never used the MSA bulletins. I would listen to everything from PBS to National Geographic. I would listen to shows to get the meat and to get some type of idea that I needed to talk about. I looked for, I would search through books to find a subject that I could take and run with myself. I was my own AI, if you will. And I would just take those talks and I would make interaction with everybody. I'd ask them what they thought about this or what they think about that. What can we do with this? And those applications to our work and to our fellowship. That's why I say I love being a DEO.
I have seen that role, and I'm like, that does look fun.
It does.
The DEO looks really fun. Like the district deputy feels like they have all the responsibility, but the DEO is the one that gets to go and have the fun.
Yeah, it's changed a little bit over the last few years. We're putting a lot more work on the DEOs to train and to educate more, because I think there's a lot of brethren out there that are looking for more education, and there's a need to help teach some of the code, to teach some of the officer's handbook. Our decorum comes out of there. So those things are important. But every once in a while, you just got to have that fun night. Right where's Brother Chad Kopinski? He's done 17th District. He came up with this lodge in a box. He had a box of random things in it. And he would say, for his talk that night, he'd put the box out and he would make one or two brothers come up, pick an item out of that box to say how it applies to masonry and make them take it wherever. It could be a book, a shoe, candle, anything. What's the tie? And you can constantly change this. You can make it something every meeting. The box is out, put a lid on it so nobody can see what's in there, and you change those things. Put headphones in there. What does it mean?
Wow, my mind is racing with that right now. It's like literally I'm sitting there.
I'm also the joke guy, and I really want to invite you down. Every now and again, Worshipful Brother Mark Craig will dust off his yellow brick road dance that he does for lodge education. And ever since you said move around the lodge, I want you to see this.
I would love to.
So I'm going to have him put that on the calendar, and I'm going to make sure that you're invited down.
Yeah, we're going to definitely do that because.
Just lodge in a box it could go on for years. And you get guys coming in there that now you're pulling them out of their shell. Some of these guys, and don't embarrass anybody. Certainly don't want to do that. So the first few times you do it, you want to get creative with the person maybe you're asking to talk about it. But when you do this for a while, you've got kind of a twofold thing going there. You're tying masonry to an object, and you've got a guy that's coming at, okay, I'll talk about it. But it was a great idea. I think and you can become much more esoteric with it, or you can focus on it more and make it have a deeper meaning with some of these. Some of these guys, could probably really surprise you what they come up with.
Yeah, the man to my right.
I was going to say,
the man to my right here,
our producer,
pull some things out and make some connections. Probably.
As to say, I saw his eyes light up when you mentioned esoteric, and boy, he could probably go off on that for hours. I do believe. Yeah, he's not. Yeah. But no, I mean that to me, I love that idea. It's so simple, and again, it's one of those fun things that the DEOs get to do. I think it's just one of the great things we can take to our lodges. And I think, again, it's that belonging that comes with it too. That's what I spent my career doing, is creating belonging experiences for folks to be well. And this is a part of wellness, really.
Sure is.
It just gets to the heart of it. I mean, lots of different types of wellness you could put in there, but I'd like to think we do create that holistic wellness.
Mm-hmm.
So, boy, one of the questions that, I think I'm going to let Matt ask this one.
No, I was going to go a different route if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Mike, we heard shotgun style, your Masonic journey, and I loved every minute of it, right? Who are you outside of Masonry?
Well, I've been in the construction industry since 1983. I've been a director of purchasing at Claypool Electric since 2005. I'm in a few months into my 21st year there. It's a stressful job. I work 50, 60 hours a week, balancing that with being a Grand Lodge officer. And also you got to balance your family there, your wife, your kids, take care of a home.
Any secrets to doing that?
My Google Calendar is probably my most precious tool. If I lose it, I'm in trouble.
Are you a time blocker?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I do, when you get to this level and everybody wants a little piece of your time and wants you to be at things, and I would love to be at all of them. It's hard. And if I whip out my phone and I go to my calendar, I've learned not to do that anymore. But if I do, you always have somebody looking over your shoulder saying, hey, you're not doing anything this night. Well, I've learned all my important dates, they're all in there. I've learned that every once in a while, about twice a month, there's a block that says hold, do not schedule, hold, do not schedule. So it shows as an event. And that's my time for my wife and I, or that, with our friends or with our kids. Taboo for me, number one, I will not do anything on the holidays, and I will not do anything on the second Sunday. Second Sunday is reserved for my family. We started that, when the kids had moved away, we wanted them to come back once a month, just to have dinner with mom and dad, second Sundays. And, relating back to when Boastworth Brother Newton gave me a phone call, he was traveling from Pittsburgh back to Wilmington. He says, "Hey, we're on our way back home. I want to know if you and Becky had opportunity tomorrow to spend a little bit of time with Sharon and I." And I'm like, that second Sunday, that I can't do it on that. And I explained to him, this is my day for family. I can't do that. Well, I stonewalled him. I stonewalled the Grandmaster, not knowing what he was going to ask me. I don't know what he wants, but you're not doing it tomorrow. So we ended up doing it a couple of days later. So, but I have to block. The calendar is probably my most important tool. It's hard to balance all of that. In order to stay sane, I have to.
Do you miss having any kind of spontaneity?
I'm so focused on so many things that when you stop and you go, man, you haven't paid attention to this. It caught me up, this summer. I realized that, man, I've got some yard work that's just, the house is just looking nasty. I can't do it today. I've got to do it tomorrow. And then you wait for tomorrow and it's pouring down rain and you can't do it. And those things are difficult just to say to my wife, hey, let's go do this. It's harder and harder, especially now. Become pretty popular. But I remind myself that this is a finite journey. I'm blessed to be able to do this. And I tell you, I could never do this if Becky wasn't with me all the time. She travels with me 50% of the time or more. Every district we're in and every event we're at, she is with me. Installations, she goes with me. She enjoys it as well because she's made so many friends. But spontaneity is just to say, get up on Sunday morning and say, hey, let's go have breakfast. I get that maybe once every 4 or 5 months. I don't get very many opportunities for that. But this journey does have an end date to it. I think once you're a past Grandmaster, you're always past Grandmaster. And there's still things, everybody still wants you to be around, but it's more at your schedule then. I love the fraternity so much, but I do have to be cautious and give Becky that time. It's important. But my kids are grown, and we don't have grandkids yet.
I was looking forward the eye roll that nobody might see.
Well, Becky and I both have lamented that our daughter and son-in-law, that they bought their house and everything's settling more and more. They may have children, they may not. Who knows? That's their decision. But we both said jokingly that, yeah, she's probably going to tell us that she's pregnant and the baby will be coming right after I become Grandmaster if I'm so elected. It's like,
Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
It always ends up that way. Ends up.
I'm not going to say one. We'll carry on. We will do as, knock wood. We'll do whatever it takes at that point.
Well, I mean, you've already kind of laid out that family is the priority, right?
Very much so.
So it's just one more thing. You'd have to adapt.
I am so blessed that my family understands what I do, understands the importance to me, and then that I understand the importance to the craft. But they're so supportive and they're excited.
Well, it seems like they're along for the journey to the extent that you can bring them.
Yes. And that's why I really want my sons and my best friend to join this for a couple of years with us as well. Hopefully we're able to make that happen.
But what about, we touched on work, we touched on family. What about hobbies, music? It doesn't sound like there's a lot of time for these things, but if you had the time.
Well, I do carve out some time. Becky and I do enjoy going. We go once a year down to Kentucky. We go to bourbon hopping, and I've got a big collection of bourbon. I enjoy bourbon.
Would you like one now?
No, because I have responsibility to drive still about 35 miles back home. I will have one when I get home.
Understand.
Interestingly, my wife can't stand cigars. I enjoy a cigar, so I cater to my wife. There's an occasional weekend that the Grand Lodge officers travel that is a stag weekend, and I will have a cigar then. And occasionally I have cigars out in the backyard with a glass of bourbon when she's with her girlfriends or when she's doing something. But then it's a shower, mouthwash, toothbrush, mouthwash, just to keep mama happy. But I do enjoy a good cigar. I like to golf. I don't, because golf takes a lot of time. That's been really hard to have those. I have a golf outing every year for Grand Lodge. But yeah, right now the hobbies haven't been as available to me. I enjoy, as in my 20s and 30s, if you asked me to read a book, I had zero interest in it because I read specifications. I'm on a computer 10, 12 hours a day. I don't want to read anymore. I just want to zone out. But I love they're useless reads, but they're fast reads. I love Brad Thor, Dan Brown, David Baldacci, Nelson DeMille, the Jack Reacher series, Vince Flynn. All those, I enjoy it. I can read those books in 3 or 4 days and I'm excited by them, and then I put it away. I've got so many books piled up right now that I haven't been able to read that I look forward to being able to read. When it comes to music, Becky and I are audiophiles. You guys are too young to remember a record store. This was back when vinyls that was all we had. And, you had 8 tracks and then it went to cassettes, then CDs and all that, yada, yada. She worked at Buzzard's Nest. It was the name of the record store. It was a chain around Central Ohio. We love all kinds of music, and music is constantly on, period. I have to have music. I'll go crazy. I don't have music. And last year every year in the 8th district, they do a Masonic Education Day. And it's coming up in January. I think it's 22nd, 3rd, or 4th, somewhere through there. And every Grand Lodge officer gives a talk, whatever they choose to talk on. So you have 12 Masonic talks. It takes 3-4 hours. And like I said, it's in the 8th district. This year it's in Yellow Springs. And we get to talk about whatever we want. Well, last year I talked about the sound assignments. And yet you don't have to tie it to Masonry, but I did. And I basically said, music is in every part of our lives. As an infant, we're sang lullabies to us. As kids, we learn, music through, we're influential. You get into your teenage years, you find a station, whether you like country and western, whether you like rock, whether you like metal, whether you like whatever. I like it all. My wife only likes old country. I like all of it. But if you didn't, when you have that music in college, it moves you. If you think about Saturday mornings in Central Ohio, it's Tibetal. And if you didn't have that music, would you still be as excited? Probably not. You think about the wedding march, and as a father walking your daughter down that wedding march and hearing that and the emotions that come with that. And then you think about you remember when the golfer Payne Stewart passed away, and there's a picture of the bagpiper in his footsteps, and he's piping out Payne Stewart. What an emotion that invokes. And the Moody Blues, Days of Future Past. The end of it is called a late lament. And it's their spoken word at the end of the song. Do you have any idea of the song I'm talking about?
I do not.
I know the Moody Blues, but I don't know that song.
Right.
Days of Future Past. Nights in White Satin. And at the end of it, there's this spoken word. And so I challenge you to listen to it. But it just crescendos and builds, and it's symphonic, and boom, at the end of the song. It's just powerful. And I'm thinking, man, there needs to be a way that we could take that type of building sound. And if you think of your initiation, and when the man's at the altar, we're at the end, and it builds, and the lights come up, and the blindfold comes off. That boom! What an impact that would be.
Yeah, and frankly, I've not seen ritual work that includes music. Now,
we used to have a musician in my lodge.
Same. And funnily enough, Chris and I actually, in going through our archives, found some old reel-to-reels.
Oh, nice.
We're trying to have that digitized so that we can actually
employ them
and potentially learn them
and save them.
Probably not myself.
Yeah.
but have somebody learn them so that we can begin using that again.
We had an organist for a long time. And he played throughout the degrees. It was beautiful to have it there. But my point was with the music, if the music is gone in our world becomes very cold, very stale, very just an unfeeling place. My tie to masonry was, if we don't have masonry, it becomes even more cold and more stale.
Hmm. Wow.
Very true.
It's 100% true.
I'll email you the PowerPoint and the talk that so you can see. You can use it if you want to use it. If you don't, that's fine too.
Oh, I think.
But anyways, that education day, that's a cool day. But when it comes to music, we listen to everything. I mean, it's always on. We go to. My wife is a concert junkie. Going to concerts is her gig. I got to see, I think the last one that I went with her, we got to see the Black Keys in Indianapolis.
Nice.
When we were there for Supreme Council, we took a break and we wanted to see the Black Keys because they were playing right behind the hotel, which was great.
That's awesome. And it was downtown Indianapolis?
Yes.
Yeah, they got some good places down there.
Yeah, this was an outdoor amphitheater.
Yeah.
Really cool. It was a last minute decision. But it was right there by Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, I know, right.
In the downtown Hilton. Right behind it. We saw the Black Keys. She just saw Elvis Costello a few weeks ago. But we've seen everything from Randy Travis to Judas Priest, Van Halen to we've seen Rush 5 times. My goodness, we've gone to a lot of concerts. But I could talk about that, and she would talk about it even longer.
Yeah, I'm with your wife when it comes to the country music. I love my 90s and before.
Yes.
After that, it's pop music.
Yeah, the newer stuff I'm not as big a fan of. I do like Chris Stapleton.
But that's a throwback. Yeah. Right? That's a different sound.
Yeah. But I'm not as big. New country is not my gig. I like old stuff. I'm back to Hank Sr. and the old country. I'll listen to it all the time. I'll put classical music on in my office. I was listening to Seal before I came up here in my office. I listen to everything. We've got, on Fridays, 2 apprentices that work in the prefab shop normally come up and collect all the trash. And I had Seal going. Now, Seal was popular in the 90s.
Yeah. I remember that.
I've got Seal going in this. He's 18, 19, 20 at the latest. Comes in and grabs my trash. He stops us. What's that music playing there? I said, Seal. He said, Seal? I said, SEAL, Seal. He goes, that's cool. And I'm like, this was music before you were born, young man. But so I said, do yourself a favor and pull it up on your phone and listen to it. That was at 2:00 today. I left my office 5, and they were going out. I had gone down to the shop at about 4:30, and he looked at me and he just gave me a big thumbs up. He had it in his earbuds. And I'm like,
that was when music still had soul. It hadn't been compressed and thrown through a digitizer and auto-tuned. And
I was listening to Nat King Cole prior to listening to Seal. That's the music I listened to today. It was Nat King Cole, Seal, Triumph's greatest hits. I just bounce around. So we listen to everything.
Boy, that sounds like my playlists today. I went from Korn to Kenny Chesney to Weird Al Yankovic. So
that's pretty eclectic.
I'm pretty sure I just got whiplash hearing that shuffled playlist.
Becky made a playlist for me. It's called Stuff to Share with Mike on Spotify. And I'm listening to it all. And it's a lot of covers. And Incubus, Let's Go Crazy by Prince.
Ooh. Yes.
Have you heard it?
I have heard that one. That is,
Some of the more modern covers
gosh,
it's so good.
But I mean, that's one that'll get your butt moving.
Ironically enough, my favorite cover is "The Sound of Silence." That
By
most recent,
Disturbed?
yeah, that most recent one. I know it's a completely different sound, but it's equally moving in a very different way.
Disturbed is
Yeah.
is an interesting group. We've seen them a couple times. The big concert at Crume Stadium. Sonic Temple.
Yeah.
And to hear that live, that was really cool.
Oh wow, yeah.
And while we were waiting for them to come on, the crowd it was right after Chester Bennington had passed away.
Yeah.
And the whole crowd, they were just waiting. They all started singing.
In the end.
Yes. And it was just made the hair on your arms.
Oh.
Yep.
It was really cool. Sonic Temple is great, but sitting on them metal stands all day long for 4 days is a little bit much for me. But in Foo Fighters, we're big fans of Foo.
No Tool. I'm slightly disappointed.
No, I don't. No, I like Tool. Don't get me wrong, I do.
Tool is a good band on the A sides. The B sides are a little hard for me.
Yeah, and this year's Sonic Temple lineup isn't that great. It's not for the money that you got to pay. And we're going to pass on it. But we saw Rush in the old Cooper Stadium where the Clippers played, the old one. That was cool.
That's awesome.
And there's some national cover bands out there. They're pretty daggone good too.
Mm-hmm. Man, I'm just thinking about all that music right now. And
Pinball Wizard right now. Just
right
between
Pinball
the ears.
Wizards.
Yep.
In high school, I was a huge Styx fan.
Oh.
First concert I saw was Kiss, 1976, Betts Memorial on the Isle. 12 years old. Scared the crap out of me.
Really?
Gene Simmons and all that blood. Yeah, it was impactful. It was great.
So I've never been a Kiss fan. Not out of
Really?
any dislike for them. There's just this weird juxtaposition for me. The image that they portray versus the music that I hear. I don't get.
There's the door right there. I mean,
I didn't say I didn't like the Beatles. I mean, come on.
Back then, that was junior high school days. Members of the Kiss Army, and man, we were all about it. I got to see Styx at the Convo in Athens on the Pieces of 8 tour. I was a big Styx fan, and then they did Mr. Roboto, and I kind of walked away.
Well, then Kiss had that period too where they tried to go makeup free, and
it
didn't.
They kind of went mainstream, and yeah. Now, see, I was a drummer. I was a drummer in high school. For a while, my senior year, I was considering going to OU on a music scholarship, but you're only going to teach or play, and neither one of those make a lot of money, and they're not very safe. So I didn't do that. And I still have a drum set at home. I've got a 9-piece Gretsch.
Oh, wow. Oh, nice.
I don't get to play very often.
Doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, I don't. And I keep buying stuff for it. And, Becky just got me a double pedal for a single bass. And I'm a great windshield or a steering wheel drummer. Yeah, that's about all the drumming I get to do anymore.
Could you bring it to Grand Lodge this next year?
Yeah. With everything I got to take to Grand Lodge? No. Nope.
The guy's made 11 trips in and out. Who is this?
Yeah. Why is he doing this?
But could you imagine that opening, though?
That would be pretty epic.
The interesting thing is Most Worship Brother Newton is a drummer. Most Worship Brother Dickershide is a drummer. Very good drummer.
We need a bass player.
Yeah. We have the capability, but we're not building a band right now. Yeah, we got a lot of percussion happening.
Yeah. Well, 38 Special had 2 drummers. Why not 3?
That is
fair.
Very true.
That's fair. One better, right?
Right.
One question I know that Matt likes to ask is, when you're wearing, a Masonic ring, is it points in or points out?
Mine's always points in. I'm not a showboat. I don't show off. Masons as a whole, we're cut the same way. We have the hardest time saying, I need something. So to me, when the point's out, you're showing off. I know there's guys that, and it's personal opinion, but this is my 33rd ring. Actually, it is a everyday 33rd ring. It's not my actual 33rd good gold ring because I'm hard on rings. This is a stainless steel gold ring, and it was a fraction of the cost of my good gold ring. But I wear it every day. The 33 point, so I can see. I look at it. There are many times that every once in a while you got anxiety builds or something's going and you just your eye catches it and it just calms you down a little bit. But it's always to remind me of my humility, the opportunity, and that I represent so many more people.
And that's actually similar to my thought, right? You ask a dozen people, you'll probably get 4 or 5 different answers, or for at least the reason. You know what I mean? But I'm often fairly introspective, and it reminds me of what it is that I need to be doing, right? And make sure that my priorities are in order.
I don't think I've ever had the feeling of I don't know what it means to be a Mason. That's always, it's in your heart. It always is. And I don't really need to be reminded that I'm a Mason. But there's just a few times that when I look at my ring, regardless of what ring I wear, I had my grandfather's black signet ring. My dad gave that to me the night that I was raised. And I wore it for a long time. And then that black onyx got chipped. And I felt horrible. So I started trying to find jewelers that could repair it. And there was nobody locally. The one company jeweler that I found that could said, yeah, just mail it to us and we'll fix it. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And so when I wear that now, that chip in the onyx reminds me that I'm still working on my ashlar, my personal ashlar. So it does it has a little bit more meaning that ties me to masonry and my grandfather. But I'm like I said, I'm kind of hard on rings. So I did this one for my everyday all the time. Now, and I'll be honest with you, I did mean to put my good gold ring on for tonight, but I knew I'd be at work all day. And like tomorrow, I'll wear it all day. I wear it for just my Masonic events, but for every day, it's this. But it's always there to remind me of the honor that I have.
It's a good answer.
I love that one. That black onyx, my grandfather gave me a black onyx one as well. And then his dad had a red garnet that I wear very sparingly because that band is very thin nowadays. So, and I'm always afraid I'm just going to smack it. And
I can't imagine not at this point in my life not having a Masonic ring on my finger. But if I take it off just to wipe underneath or whatever, it's right back on. I worry. And sometimes your fingers will thin and they slide a little bit quicker. So you'll see me kind of keeping my fist because I wear it. It's not coming off. But same with the wedding band. I can't imagine not having one.
I'm the exact same way. It's like if I forget them in the morning, it feels odd all day.
I don't ever take them off. Never. They're on all the time. If I take one off to put a different one on, it's immediate.
Okay.
My rings never come off unless if I'm doing something where if we're doing wood, cutting trees or whatever, or working on the tractor or whatever, I will take it off then, but it's immediately back on. When I worked for Ross Labs, I had to take them off when I entered the plant. You couldn't have jewelry on. So I would put them on my key ring, and it just destroyed. I hated it that I had to take my wedding band off. It made me crazy. My wife said, well, why don't we get our rings tattooed on our fingers? I said, I'll keep the wedding band. No ink.
I was a huge fan when the silicone started coming out because of the exact reasons that you're talking about, right? Between working out, working on things that you would damage it, having to go through for my vocation, going through metal detectors and everything, it was a loss risk a lot of times. And so it was, when the silicone happened, I was all on board. It feels kind of chintzy, if you will. Like, it doesn't feel the same as the real one, but I can maintain consistency with it. And to me, that's more important.
Yeah. So a lot of traditions will tell you that your 33rd ring goes on right with your wedding ring. And I mean, it's here. A lot of guys do that. I'm not comfortable with it. This is a bond. This is a vow. This is a commitment. This does not get replaced, or something sitting on it does not make it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I because it is. You're right.
They're both lifelong commitments, right? But they're very different.
Very different.
Absolutely.
And well, yeah, and I
can tell you which one's coming first.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But she's right beside me. And that's what makes it nice.
That's really cool. I like that she's been there for the journey, and she's still there in the journey.
In the journey, yeah.
There was a time, when I was a lodge officer, a master of the lodge, DEO or deputy. The only times she traveled with me when I was a DEO or deputy was to the Grand Master's Banquet, maybe Grand Lodge. Even then, she didn't go. So when we started this journey in the Grand Lodge, she's with me every weekend. We're gone from January through the end of June until now. When you become elected, it's even more it's all year round. Wherever we go, whatever district we're in, whatever reception, whatever reconsecration, whatever conference, Supreme Council, Ohio Council deliberation, everything. She is with me all this weekend. Now the ladies go do things. They get to have fun. We continue to work, but she travels with me all the time. I'm blessed to have her as a travel partner, and that I couldn't do it if it wasn't for her.
But if I'm hearing you correctly, it almost seems like you guys spend more time now than when you were at the district level.
Oh, we do. We stay in a hotel room 55, 60 nights a year.
That's a lot of points.
It's a lot of points, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's hard to keep up with those, but so we travel with special pillows for our necks, and with some of those pillows you get stink.
Oh, yeah.
They're the worst.
We learned a long time ago, when first thing you do is you pull right up to the front door, you get the cart and you load the cart. You're not schlepping everything in. And we pack heavy anyways. We take more than we ever need, because there's nothing worse than getting somewhere and going, oh, I got this. I had one night that I forgot my black shoes. At 10 o'clock at night, I was going to a Meijer because it was the only thing open to buy a pair of black dress shoes. Oh, those were horrible. Those were horrible.
If you've got luck like me, they had every size but yours.
Yeah, no, I found them, and I was able to get through the day, but we just weren't close enough to get back home. And when we go to Grand Lodge, I'm taking 2 suits, I'm taking 2 tuxes, I'm taking 2 morning suits. I'm redundant everything, because we're Kalahari this year, and that's 3.5 hours away.
Yeah,
and you're not going down the street anywhere and buying a morning suit. And we just pack heavy, but you learn how to work hotels all the time.
That sounds like me, kind of a little bit of a fashionista. Anybody can't tell, but I pack way more than I need because I like to have options.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen the luggage that it's a duffel bag, but
yes,
you lay it all out?
I just got one of those.
I got one too.
Love it.
We take off for Florida in the middle of January, go down to the Florida visitations. And I bought it specifically to see how it was going to work for that. Mine feels like it might be a little bit too long for that. You set it down to make certain you're compliant. Well, I'm not going to set it down in there.
No, I didn't do that either.
I'm just going to have it on my shoulder, but I'm going to see how it works out, because I've wanted one of these for a while. I took a suit, I put it in there, I pulled it all up. 4 or 5 hours later, took it out. Fine, so we'll see.
I took one to New Jersey. Actually, it was the same day as Grand Lodge was getting over, because I had to go to New Jersey right after that, and worked perfect.
I'm anxious to see how it holds up.
And it holds a lot too. It holds a lot. So
I haven't tested the waters too heavy with that yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than the checked bag disappearing.
No,
right. So if you can get it in the carry-on, get it in the carry-on.
I'll take the essentials and make certain I'm covered, and then we're still going to check one suitcase, because, like I say, half my suitcase is 2 pillows.
I've stayed at enough hotels to know exactly why you've got pillows. And there's the Goldilocks thing, right? You're not getting the baby bear pillow. It's either going to be really overstuffed or it's going to be as thin as can be.
Yeah, no, you get used to a certain pillow. That's what you want.
Yeah,
that's how we travel.
Same here.
And we do, as we travel, I have a bottle carrier. Actually, I had what we've nicknamed a couple of things. We have Fred and Barney. One year we got as a gift a collapsible insulated picnic basket cooler. It's got a zipper top. So we'll put waters, I don't know, Pepel, water, tea. And then we've got totes in there that have just basically a medicine cabinet. That's Fred. Everything goes in Fred. Well, Barney is then, if you go to, you get like a Pelican case, you take the foam out. Well, Barney holds 3 bottles, 2 glasses, 2 tasting glasses. We take Fred and Barney with us as well.
I love it.
Hadn't thought of repurposing a Pelican case for that, but I'm very much understanding.
I can see the wheels in your mind turning right now.
At least one. The other one's still stuck on the DEO stuff. Well, I'll get there.
Nice.
Oh my goodness. This is one of my favorite questions to ask. What were you thinking right before you knocked on the door for your EA degree? What was going through your mind?
Going back 20 years. As I said, you're taken in, you're put in a room by yourself, and you're told to put on these clothes you don't know where they came from, and why are they doing this? And everybody jokes about different things when it comes to the night of your initiation. But my thoughts were, one, my dad was out there, and he's going to experience this with me. The other was just thinking of my grandpa. I was thinking of those two things. But there is so much apprehension to that time, not knowing what you're going to experience. But I did have a kind gentleman. His name was Paul Scholl. He put it, and at the time he was in his mid 80s. Smart. He knew our ritual book back and forwards. Put his hand on my shoulder and says, "You're not going to go through anything that everybody else in this room has gone through." And my mind went, "Yeah, you guys are some brave souls, because I got an idea what you're going to do." It wasn't even close to what was going to happen to me. But you're thinking of the hazing things that go on in fraternities. I thought, oh, this is, I was very apprehensive.
I can relate. I think I was a little apprehensive too. Again, my grandfather was going through my mind. Not my dad yet, because he always is, but he wasn't a Mason yet. So I was one of those that got to raise my own dad, which was kind of cool. So
I raised my dad in a rusty nail degree.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I did that when I was master. I raised my dad with the rusty nail degree. Have you guys ever seen the rusty nail?
No, but my second year.
Yeah, your second year.
We were trying to get it off the ground. It unfortunately never materialized. But it's something that we're eager to do. And it's
another one of those things to get some people back.
Yeah.
That's exactly why we want to do it. We want to drum up. We want to get some interest in it and see how many seats we can fill. Yeah. Right.
I did it my year as master. It was cool. I think it's the last time my lodge has done it was when I did it. I don't know. I don't remember them ever doing it since, but it's a great thing. But I got to do my dad. My dad was mad at me that I made him. I said, "You're doing this." No. I said, "Dad, you don't have." My dad just wanted to be one of those Masons that wanted the sanctuary. My dad is not a public speaker. He was never going to be. And he didn't want that in lodge, but he just wanted the lodge experience. So I made him go through the degree. After it was done, he was thankful that he did, I'm pretty certain. But at the time, he wasn't happy with me. I was making him do it.
Isn't that how it always is, though? Anytime you're reaching for that next thing, you're always glad when you're on the other end of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. There's always apprehension. You're getting out of your comfort zone. You're doing something that maybe you aspire to and haven't done before. But then there's that relief, and you always have that bounce in your step. And it's like, oh my God, I did that.
Yeah.
and the sense of accomplishment. Again, I think you and I are kind of kindred spirits. I'm more of an introvert. The thought of doing this 4 years ago, just what we're sitting here doing right now, I would have like walked right out the door. I said, "Nah, I'm not doing anything like that." But
it's amazing what we can accomplish when we just put ourselves out there.
it is. I mean, I would have never thought I'd get to the East, but here we are in year 2. So, but I can't say Rusty Nail Degree. That is a charge for your membership committee. So,
See what I can do.
we'll make that happen this year, I think.
Nice.
You know, if you could give, I like this one too. If you could give one piece of advice to a young Mason, what would that advice be?
It is not given enough. Stay with it. Things will come. Just Benjamin Franklin said, "Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. Get involved." That's the biggest piece of advice. Get involved. Ben Franklin nailed it, in my opinion.
On a couple of different things, actually.
Yeah, well, just a few.
Wow. I mean, no, it's powerful. Yeah, I mean, what a great time we've had. So
I'm so appreciative that you reached out and asked me to do this. I love the opportunities. Number one, to do things like this. Number two, to spend time with my brothers. It's a blessing to me. It's been a little bit since I've been here. Been a couple of years since I've been in this building.
Actually, before we send you out, because our very first episode focused on the history of this building.
Yeah.
Do you have any first impressions about this particular building that you want to share, or even a favorite memory here?
Well, I got two. Number one, I did 2 of my chapter degrees and all of my council degrees here. I did the rest of them in Lancaster and Logan. All my commander degrees were in Lancaster. Past master's degree was in Logan. But so I had that. Art was here and Randy, and it was nice. And I went through it with Colton Holla. I don't know if you know Colton Holla or not. He's now a district deputy of the 13th district, but he belongs here in his York Rite degrees. And the other memory, just a little bit longer. We had a jeweler in Lancaster that knew I bought a lot of things for Becky there. Becky liked their stuff, and they knew I was a Mason. So anytime that this jewelry store would get in something Masonic, they're calling me. And so I'd go down and look at it, and I'd tell them, they're just pins. They really have no value. And if you don't want them here, give them to me. I'll take them up to the lodge, and I'll give them to Eastern Star. I'll give them the White Shrine. That was common. Well, they called me one day and said, "We really need you to come down and look at this. We have a ring that's got an eagle on it, and we got this jewel that's all gold, and this whole box of all these other things." Okay, I'll be down. I work in town. I'm a mile and a half from the jewelry store that I go to, and I go in, and David shows me these. The first thing I see is this Scottish Rite ring, and it's a beautiful ring, double-headed eagle. It's big. It's black. It's gold with a black background and double-headed eagle and a diamond in the center. And my eye right now went to that because I was looking for a new Scottish Rite ring, and he said the family would like $500 for the ring, so I'll take it. I look on the inside, and you probably won't know the name, but the name Vernon Vermillion was in there. You know the name?
I know the last name.
So, well, that's interesting. And then there was all these pins. There was ritual books for Rainbow and for Eastern Star. So it was a Masonic family. And then there's this leather case. And I opened up this case. I go, "Oh, okay, poker just changed." He says, "What is that?" He said, "That's a past master's jewel. It's layered in gold. Not many lodges gave past master jewels because they're worth anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000. And he said the family doesn't know what to do with this, and nobody wants it, and they were just going to melt it down." I said, please do not do that. That is not what this should happen with this. I said, and at the time I didn't know the connection. And I saw that it said Newark 97. And I said, let me reach out. I know I know the guys there. I called Tom and I said, hey, I've got a past master's tool. What can you tell me about it? I said, the name on it is Vernon Vermillion, and it's 1957. And he knew. So just by happenstance, a couple of days later at work, I had bought the ring. I was wearing the ring, and I get a call from a guy that I graduated from high school with, who was in DMLA with me. He says, hey, you bought a ring down at the jewelry store. I'm thinking, yeah. He says, well, that was Jennifer's grandfather. Well, Jennifer was a rainbow sweetheart at the same time. I said, are you, Lou, are you wanting this back? He said, no, we're just excited that you got it. So I reconnected with him and told the story, and I said, we've got Vernon's past master's jewel. And I made the connection with the lodge and with the family, and we brought all that up here to the lodge and presented that jewel back to the lodge. So I think it's hanging. I'm not positive.
I believe it is. Or we're working on getting something made for it, aren't we?
Yeah, there's a couple of those projects underway. A lot of that stuff is right now in our archives.
You guys, we had a dinner. You had the family in. We had a presentation. The family was just flattered that, that they were welcomed back in, and they were just taken aback. And I know the lodge was happy to get that past master's jewel back.
Yeah,
which was so that's my two ties to this building here.
That's an incredible story.
Those are great ties.
Yeah, and the fact that all materialized in a handful of days, and just some local connections and some phone calls.
It was just by sheer happenstance that a guy in DMLA who had married a rainbow sweetheart, that was her grandfather's ring, and I wear his ring occasionally. Well, I don't now that I have a different ring, but I wore that all the time, and so I probably will try to figure out a way that I can wear a third ring, because there was an important tie there where that grand lodge.
Boy, doesn't that sum up a lot of what we've talked about? Just kind of how big, but how small the fraternity feels a lot of times, where it is kind of that really 3 degrees of separation there almost.
It's a good closeness. Closeness.
That closeness is always there, but again, Right Worshipful Brother McCandlish, it has been our honor to have you here at Newark 97. Thank you so much for coming out and spending time with us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we look forward to just connecting more in the future too. I think hopefully this continues to grow. I think our numbers have actually been growing each month over month, so we're
fantastic, and I hope it does for you. I really like the format. You guys have got a good thing going here, and I look forward to the guests that you're going to have on in the future. And anything I can do to help in the future, please let me know.
Absolutely, we will. Again, thank you for the kind words, and just thank you so much for being here with us today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. I look forward to pressuring Mark Craig into doing that district education program to get you down here again.
Let me know.
And with that, I'll let you send us out.
Well, I just want to say thank you for letting me on. Remember, this is a journey that we get to take. We don't have to take it.
Again, thank you so much to Right Worshipful Brother McCandlish for his time. Hopefully everybody really enjoyed this interview sit down we had with him. I know that both myself and Matt really enjoyed the time we got to spend with Right Worshipful Brother McCandlish.
Yeah, wonderful gentleman, really interesting interview, and it was immensely pleasurable getting to know him as a person.
Yeah, and I love his taste in music too. It really starts to line up with my own.
I've said it before, the best metaphor I can use is whiplash. As he was kind of laying out those musical tastes, I felt like I was bouncing back and forth between a variety of poles.
Same here. And I will say, if you really loved that interview that we did with Right Worshipful Brother McCandlish, we've got a treat for you. We're also going to drop the full video of that interview with Right Worshipful Brother McCandlish on the same day that this episode drops. So go out to our YouTube channel and check out the video, full-length interview with Right Worshipful Brother McCandlish.
Yeah, that extra element makes it a little bit more fun sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah. You get a little bit more of just the brotherhood in that, I think.
Well, and not all of our communication is verbal.
Absolutely.
Right? There's the little subtle cues from body language.
Absolutely. So check that out. Check everything else out on our YouTube channel as well. But, this is once again going to do it for us here at Beyond the Door. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to continuing to connect with you each and every month. As always, please help us, grow our audience by subscribing to us on your podcatcher of choice, as well as share this podcast with your brothers, friends, and family. Did you enjoy this episode? Please leave us your feedback on your podcatcher of choice. And remember, good reviews only.
Nah, I want you to leave the comments on. When you post this video, don't make sure those comments are turned on.
Oh, the comments are definitely turned on. They definitely are. And any of our podcatchers, you can leave us some feedback as well. Do you want to get in touch with us? Newark 97 is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also reach us via email at newark.97.lodge@gmail.com. Until next time, stay safe, and as always, search for light in Masonry.